In the last episode of Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, we showed what the world was doing to face the zombie apocalypse. Nations were united under the real United Nations, while the other United Nations was playing politics. But the RUN was devoted to both finding a cure for the zombie plague and ensuring that as many people survive as is humanly and inhumanly, for you zombie types out there, possible. But today, we must remember. So remember to remember that history repeats itself. So the real United Nations, the RUN, decided to build a time machine that could only transport one man and a camera back in time to observe the other zombie pandemics that broke out during the history of the world. So let's get into it. You may be asking yourself, wait a minute, Baron and the real United Nations, what would have happened if the zombie virus happened during the Stone Ages, when all we had was very rudimentary stone spears and rocks, and people were running around with bones on their heads thinking it was like high fashion? Well, this is a simulation of what would have happened, and we're very fortunate that the zombie virus actually never happened during the Stone Age, or humanity as we knew it may have gone extinct. It's a simple matter of the weapons were too primitive. What are you gonna do with all that junk? I mean, what are you gonna do with a giant wooden club and overwhelmed by zombies? We hadn't even invented the bow and arrow. We were just learning how to use fire and cook our mammoth meat and grind it up. We don't even know what a cow is. So needless to say, luckily for humanity, it never attacked. The zombie epidemic virus plague never happened during the Stone Age, because humanity would have gone extinct, and then zombies would be walking around with bones on their head. But I'm sure you guys have watched the Lord of the Rings movie, because the Fellowship of the Ring is one of the best movies of all time, and you asked yourself, hey, whatever happened to the little folk? The hobbits with the furry feet, the inventors of the second breakfast and elevensies. Oh, I don't know, Baron. I don't think they know about that. Well, unfortunately, during the medieval times where the first zombie outbreak occurred, most of the little folk, the hobbits, were world-renowned farmers. They were sought after by all corners of the world for their amenable positions. Oh my god, what happened to that man's arm? It was ripped out of its socket. The outbreak actually occurred in the agricultural areas of the old medieval Europe. And all of the hobbits, ladies and gentlemen, I dare say it, they went extinct. And nothing's scarier than small zombies. Big zombies are scary, but for some odd reason, little zombies are scarier. And they even have the ability to drag you off the cliff. Farmer, watch out, man! Oh no. So needless to say, not only did the zombie epidemic first break out on human planet Earth, known by the aliens as Terran.
Is you saying aliens is real?
Wait, you can talk?
Brains.
It caused a massive famine. Malnutrition swept through medieval Europe and more people succumbed to the zombie epidemic. But during the medieval times, we had some technological advancements, like the bow and arrow that eventually evolved into the British longbow. And men no longer wore bones on their head, they actually learned to harness metals, so they could make really cool hats and indirectly make very large and sharp swords. I see your sword is as big as mine, King. They had discovered religion, and they decided, hey, instead of using holy hand grenades and black powder weaponry from China, why not stick it on a post and have a Death Star beam of healing come out of it? Because, I don't know, science. And even great machines of war that some people love so much they decided to kiss dearly. Watch out for splinters, Billy. And the bow evolved to the crossbow, and the weapons were sharp, and they learned to use strategy, like choke points. And the medieval factions, or rather the medieval peoples, still got swept and thrown into the giant rivers because zombies are crazy. It's almost like World War Z mixed with the movie 300. But they managed to hold back the zombie hordes. Luckily, the zombie epidemic wasn't too huge during the medieval times, unfortunately. It was not without great cost, as the little people of the world, the people some called the Shire folk, went extinct, and the world was definitely sadder. While most of the countries in mainland Europe during the medieval times had a good show, the Norse didn't. For some odd reason, this phase of the zombie epidemic seemed to do better in the cold, ironically enough, because most common and modern information on zombie epidemics and plagues seem to be that the they don't do well in cold weather. I mean, as we know from the purely trustable source, Max Brooks' book World War Z, later made into a movie, and main character was played by Brad Pitt. I mean, if Brad Pitt's in a movie, it's gotta be real, right? But you gotta remember that technology was here. Instead of not only sharp weapons, there was also just big metal blocks they decided to put on sticks because they found it was very good at creating blunt trauma to smash, well, I guess some of your friendly units and zombies alike. Some even said that even the mythological Norse gods, are they mythological if they were real? Thor and Odin Allfather, nice eye patch Odin, decided to help out the Norse communities. The people of the North. The people of the Norse. Maybe that's where it came from. And needless to say, lightning and spears from heaven are really freaking effective at stopping the zombie epidemic, dude. I mean, can Thor even be stopped? Look at this man. It begs the question, maybe the first zombie epidemic wasn't actually during the medieval times. Was it potentially during the ancient times? It appears from this ancient reed scroll. From the cradle of civilization, or at least near it, along the Nile River, we found out that one of the ancient pharaohs, named Baron is the Coolest. Oh, I like that name. That the great pharaoh Baron is the Coolest actually what? He summoned Thor, Apollo, Odin Allfather, Zeus the other Allfather, and Ares the gods of war. He summoned all of them to help, wait, what? The biggest zombie epidemic of all time? That would explain why on some old pots and stained glass windows that angels used to be painted green. Maybe they weren't angels, but flying zombies. This is the first reported experience of meeting flying bipedal humanoids. This time they were actually zombies, though. But remember that the great pharaoh Baron is awesome, that the gods helped protect the ancient lands. Huh. I mean, I'm reading this off Wikipedia, so you know it has to be true. If it's on the internet, it's true. But look at that. Who would have thought that the gods would be the best way to combat the zombie epidemic? Unfortunately, somehow they just disappeared over time. But the legend has it that the great emperor of feudal Japan raised one of the greatest armies that was ever known. And remember that technology had advanced and Japanese swords were renowned as some of the best in the world. Then there was the dark arts of the ninjutsu and some of the most earliest explosives that humanity had ever known that were able to be fired into exploding arrows and even flame-throwing dragons held in the air because, I don't know, why not, dude? It's cool, bruh. And even one of the great martial arts that is known as let's get big and fat and charge the other people with our bellies. But the zombies seem to have adopted that strategy. And one of the greatest outbreaks attacked feudal Japan. Oh my god, the emperor has teleportation abilities. That's some pretty good abilities to, you know, I don't know, fight off the zombies. Now, did the emperor give his life to protect his land? It sure looks like it. Some say he got over a lot, that's the numerical account, of the zombies and tried to get them to fall into the water with him, but he kept teleporting backwards. So when we think he's gonna die, he really did it. Oh god, but they eventually consumed the emperor, but he survived and bought enough time for his people to fight back, for them to use their new flame technology, the likes of which the world would not see for quite a while. Flamethrowers were pretty new advancements at this time, but, you know, quite effective at destroying zombies. And the Japanese, during the feudal era of their time, held off against the zombie swarm. And while Europe was no stranger to the zombie epidemic after dealing with it for the first time, during the Renaissance, there actually was not only amazingly styled facial hair, but also a renaissance of the zombie plague that just seemed to pop up because, hey, you're painting pretty pictures, how about some blood? But remember, human technology always seems to evolve much like the zombie plague. Here, the zombies evolved to explode and host other zombies inside their bodies? I don't know, I'm not a zombie. But one of the greatest inventors of the time, Leonardo da Vinci, he make a tank, and a tank has a many gun on it. They spin around and fire many guns. This is the transcript from his journal. And they were like, oh, that is very nice. And they had sharper metal and even armored horses. I mean, they talk about technology. So needless to say, spinning tanks with a many gun that go boom boom very fast are very nice. And pretty good at fighting off the zombies. Also, yeah, let's abandon the high ground, you noobs. You're supposed to stay up here and shoot down at them. I mean, I'm not able to alter time. I'm just a journalist sent back to the past with the camera to see how people have endured the zombie epidemic. But it didn't always go smoothly. Some of the greatest cities, you may wonder, like, hey, how come certain cities in Italy were at once the greatest and then, you know, later, like, no one even lives there, bro? Like, what even happened with that? The zombies happened, guys. The zombies happened. Who put cannons on this thing instead of just blades and brought it around like a Beyblade to just slice off the zombies? Shoot the cannons! It looks like it has like 1,000,000 cannons when it goes this fast. But unfortunately, some cities fell and many of the people turned to zombies. It wasn't as easy as it was when the mythological gods were helping. And while pirates had always been popular, a very popular trade at the time, due to no central government like the real United Nations, some of the pirates at this time, the most famous ones were Italian, like Giacomo Dubleguno. And he joined the various city-states of Italy where a lot of them decided to, I don't know, poke each other in the booties with some short swords, but the zombies had evolved too. You know, they may not have as cool sounding as Giacomo Dubleguno, but they had giant zombies. But the Italians all fell back to one of their old fortresses, and one of the cannons was sabotaged. But the Italians all fell back to one of their oldest fortresses that had since been buried under a lot of plastic trash. I don't know why. Things of history buried in modern day trash, I don't know. Does this happen? Needless to say, though, the Italians had some pretty epic weapons. Oh my god, look at that. That is awesome. And some say even the flying ones can't fly over nothing. But the zombies were held back at the fortress, and humanity survived another apocalypse, except for this guy. This guy's definitely gonna die. Oh my goodness, there are some explosives that are making things just absolutely awesome to watch. Who would have thought you could have so much fun during a zombie epidemic siege? Oh my god, there's some dude. Is this you, Giacomo? Giacomo is got some pretty cool guns. And Giacomo's just an amazing name, so that's why the leader of the pirate faction is named Giacomo now. So who's gonna shoot the last flyer? Giacomo's distracting him! Gentlemen, fire your muskets! Somebody hit him. There we go. But until the modern outbreak, the most recent zombie epidemic was actually during the 1940s in Siberia, in a fortress that some say was led by John Wick. That looks awfully modern, Johnny boy. But this was the last known holding, and it seemed that one of the best weapons that the Russians had was a flamethrower. If they could have learned the lessons from the great Japanese zombie siege, then they probably would have used flames a little bit earlier. But some say that the greatest weapon that humanity had at the time was actually John Wick. Oftentimes portrayed by Keanu Reeves in modern day pop culture movies, John Wick, some even called Baba Yaga by his Russian name, was one of the best defenders that humanity had ever had. And needless to say, many a zombie got burned by flamethrowers, Molotovs, and a man who just lost his dog. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another episode of Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. This one is sponsored by Russian vodka and Baba Yaga superstition. Let me know what you'd like to see in the next one and what mods we should check out. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. See you next time.